Steve, you're director of the Irish Boat Rental Association. Normally, international visitors are your mainstay, but of course, the domestic market is more important than ever last year, but also possibly this summer as well.
Well, yes, exactly. Normally, we would have, I think, something like 76% of our total sort of visitors would be from mainland Europe, mainly German or German-speaking markets. We have seen a steady rise over the past few years in the domestic market, but I think in 2019 it actually hit 22%. But obviously last year in 2020 we were at 100%. And
a lot of those domestic markets, they must have been discovering Shannon boat cruises for the first time ever.
Oh, absolutely, and we were delighted to have them, of course. And really, we would like to try and get a much bigger hold on the domestic market for the future. I think it'll be healthier, and I think also we've got to look at our own sort of our overseas market and develop into new markets for us away from that German-speaking, although they're very good to us, and we hope they'll continue to be. I think it's time to look further afield.
The financial supports from government. I know your sector wasn't eligible for the CRSS, if I'm correct.
Yes, absolutely.
So the business continuity grant scheme that Fortune Ireland launched a month or two ago, that was particularly important for you, and I know a lot of your members have applied for it.
Yeah, it's absolutely vital that we can get some real assistance from the business continuity scheme. It's all very well to sort of say we did quite well last year in terms of the domestic market, and we're hoping to do well again this year. But in total, we only had 13 weeks of operations last year, and our normal operating season is 30 weeks, which is actually quite long for a tourism season in Ireland. But it's the way that the boat rental business has sort of developed over the last sort of 50 odd years, that we would, in fact, if we could, try and keep it going right through the winter, because there's, with better boats, better insulation, heating and so forth, there's no reason why you couldn't enjoy the splendors of the Shannon in the winter months, particularly in, say, short breaks.
And I mean, there are many challenges, obviously, that we all have to face, but you guys have a unique one to a certain extent, because you don't benefit from the preferred VAT rate that the rest, or most of the rest of the tourism sector get, the 9% rate. You have to pay a higher rate than that. Why is that?
Unfortunately, we're stuck in the 13.5% rate for historic reasons. It goes right back to 1981, when there was a VAT reduction for ourselves and I think the car hire business at the time, from the high rate, which at the time I think was 20%, the luxury rate, to the middle rate of VAT, and because the revenue I recognised as really accommodation providers in the tourism business, but because we've had that one reduction, they can't give us a further reduction due to the VAT directive from the EU. So we're sort of stuck in a problem between the revenue commissioners, the European Commission, and how much flexibility we have. The net result of that is that we are really uncompetitive in our own market by 4.5% taxation against a hotel offering a family break, or and more importantly, a lot of our business is actually based along the border or very close to the border, and there are boat companies operating on Lough Erne who can charge 5% VAT. So that makes our products really uncompetitive in terms of the taxation.
And that Shannon Masterplan, it was only launched, I think, a couple of weeks ago. If memory serves me right, there was about 75 million euro of investment earmarked for it over the next few years. There's the real opportunity there, isn't there, to sort of transform a wonderful experience into something magical and something really compelling for both the domestic market and the international visitor.
Yeah, I think absolutely. And it's, if you look at the Shannon Masterplan, it's the first time there's been a sort of a cohesive, holistic approach to tourism development along the whole Shannon. So it includes everywhere. And it's looking at really earmarking hero projects, which will sort of cement bigger tourism numbers in certain places, rejuvenation of the towns, increasing the underwater experience, and particularly developing the areas through rewilding into an ecotourism destination, which will be, I think, a major tourist attraction for Ireland. It'll bring us into one of the biggest sort of ecotourism areas in Europe. I think there's a huge amount of opportunities here for investment, not only in boating, but obviously the shoreside stuff as well.
No, it sounds fantastic, and it brings me back to the kind of battles myself and you sort of had with,
and the late Eamon as well, who was,
and of course Eamon McKeown, who, the battles against sort of maybe political or departmental sort of reluctance to embrace a brand for the Midlands, because back then, if you recall, we had Wild Atlantic Way and Ireland's Ancient East, and of course, where does the Shannon and sort of the wonderful Midlands fit? It needed its own space, and they came up with Ireland's Hidden Heartlands, which has worked a gem.
Absolutely. And I think the important thing about the Shannon Masterplan and Ireland's Hidden Heartlands, it's really a fusion of the two. So we've got two very powerful tourism destinations here working together to produce, I think, something which is going to be really unique and really fantastic. And it is really a very exciting time, I think, to be in the tourism business in the Midlands, because there are an awful lot of attractions there. There's an awful lot there for kids. There are so many opportunities, and there's so much of our history there as well, and heritage, which is
Clon MacNoise and the rest.
It's just is really unbelievable that here you have the ruins of a 6th century monastery at the centre of Ireland. It was really the crossroads of the world, and at the time. So a lot to build on, a lot of work to be done yet, but a lot of opportunities. So what we're looking at now is a complete replacement of the existing fleet to make it more sustainable, which means hybrid boats, all electric boats, even hydrogen boats. So, there's a lot going on, but there's not a lot out there in terms of the technology. There are some hybrid boats, there are some electric boats. There's very few of them working in the hire business. And if we were to develop a fleet for the Shannon in the next sort of few years, it would almost be a world's first. Because the Shannon itself is so varied. You're talking about, a very wide and natural flowing river. The Shannon only drops something like 100 feet from its source to Crusher. So it's a slow moving river shifting an awful lot of water. But you've also got these very large lakes, which are almost like inland seas, and you've got areas of canals. But the beauty of the Shannon is there's really only 3 locks on the whole system, all of which are manned.
And I know in terms of that sort of COVID proofing, if you like, there was research done last year, I think with Kantar, that yourselves and Fáilte Ireland both did, and it was very positive, wasn't it, in terms of consumer feedback? Yeah,
absolutely. It's 96% of the cohort, which was actually 433 respondents, so it was actually quite large. They said they felt safe from COVID-19 during my boating holiday, and a further 87% felt that the boating companies took COVID-19 seriously. And it was easy to find out the information. So it was a really superb piece of research that was done into Ireland's Hidden Heartlands, actually, as well as ourselves. So.
But they're really positive numbers, but it would suggest, therefore, that the boat rental market should be allowed reopen relatively soon, because it, as you say, it's safe, it's predominantly outdoors, you're within the bubble. Are you getting any clarity as to when your members will be allowed trade again?
Well, I'm afraid we're like everyone else. There isn't, the clarity doesn't seem to be out there in any shape or form.
Yeah.
Our biggest, I suppose, impediment to reopening is the distance. We couldn't reopen until people were allowed to travel.
Yes.
Which would be level 2. But really, this product is fit for purpose. We could open safely probably tomorrow if we really had, if we really could, in a safe way, because we have the protocols, we have the cleaning regimes and everything else that goes with it, all very carefully worked out, with the industry.
Yeah, well, listen, fingers crossed you get a good season again, even if it's only the domestic market. But I think we're all hoping that we get international tourism going again, maybe in Q3, if not in the height of the summer, because it's important for everyone.
We've still got a lot of overseas bookings in our systems as well, and a lot of our regular customers from Europe are asking, when can we come back? We want to come back. So and we have a booking, and they're just rolling through the system. Unfortunately, I mean, we would really love to have them back in say September and October of this year. But it's going to take a while to recover. I don't think there's any question about that. And I think, COVID is going to be with us for a long time to come in terms of the mask wearing and the protocols and the disinfectants and so on and so forth, the sanitization that goes on. I think it's just something we're going to have to learn to live with. And to say, we really love our domestic customers, and we'd like to keep them. And I can understand them. Maybe not this year, but next year, I'm sure they'll want to try something different, go to the sun. So, if we don't get our overseas business back, we're going to be in trouble. So yes, we would dearly love to keep the domestic market for as long as we can.
Absolutely. Well, I had my first Shannon experience for years last summer, and it was absolutely wonderful. So I can personally recommend it to anyone listening to this. Steve, thank you so much for your time, and the best of luck to you and your members for the summer ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Owen, and thanks for all the work that ITIC has done on our behalf, and in fairness to Fáilte Ireland as well, and the tremendous support they've been giving us.